Case File TR6201. The first verified anomaly was not the clock. It was the family photograph on the refrigerator, where 4 generations stood in the same kitchen, smiling beneath the same yellow light, though the house had only been built 14 years earlier. The registry received the file from a county probate clerk in Bellwether, Ohio, after she found a death certificate dated 3 days in the future and signed in her own handwriting. The deceased was listed as Elian Voss, age 79. At the time, Elian was 26, recently employed at the quarry and still using his grandmother's address because every apartment in town smelled faintly of wet limestone. Elian inherited the house from a great-aunt nobody could describe without correcting themselves. Some said she had red hair, some said she had no hair at all. The funeral home remembered embalming her twice. The house sat at the end of Marrow Lane, a white rectangle with black shutters, and a porch swing that moved only when someone inside was lying. On the first night, Elian heard the kitchen clock strike 13. He laughed, because men in empty houses laugh at things that frighten them before they have learned better. Then the second hand reversed. It did not sweep back smoothly. It ticked. Each sound was deliberate, wet, and patient, like a finger tapping the inside of a cheek. By morning, his beard had grown in gray along the jaw. His driver's license showed a different middle initial. In the mirror, behind his shoulder, the kitchen doorway opened onto a hallway that did not exist on the floor plan. He called his mother. The call lasted 11 minutes. Registry audio enhancement later isolated a second voice beneath hers, repeating every number she said, but one lower. When she told him to leave at 7, the voice said 6. When she said she loved him, the voice said loved, then corrected itself to O. The town records showed that Marrow Lane had been renamed 6 times. Each old name belonged to a child who had vanished from a house party, a blizzard shelter, a wake, or a supper where the meat could not be identified. The house remained. The street adjusted around it like skin around a splinter. Elian tried to unplug the clock. There was no cord. He removed the batteries. It kept ticking. He smashed the glass with a cast-iron pan. The broken hands continued rotating beneath the fragments, and the numbers on the face changed from 1 through 12 to names: Voss, Marin, Lale, Oric, Penn, Child, 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 Mother, Mother, Mother. At 2:13 a.m. on the third night, the registry line received Elian's first statement. He sounded calm in the way people sound calm when panic has gone too far and become weather. He said the house was making him younger in one room and older in another. In the parlor, his knuckles ached and liver spots bloomed across his hands. In the upstairs bathroom, baby teeth pressed beneath his gums. In the basement, he heard his own voice calling him Dad. Evidence item A is the pantry door. It was photographed by Deputy Harker after Elian reported scratching. The first photograph shows 6 vertical gouges in old paint. The second, taken 10 seconds later, shows the gouges spelling "Come back older." The third shows the deputy reflected in the brass knob, but with an infant's face. By then, neighbors had begun avoiding Marrow Lane. Dogs refused to pass the mailbox. Mail accumulated in the box, but carried postmarks from years not yet reached. One envelope contained a sympathy card for Elian's mother. Inside, in her own handwriting, she had written, "I am sorry I spent you." The registry dispatched field listener Cy and archivist Cole with standard temporal contamination kits, 3 analog recorders, and instructions not to acknowledge any relative seen inside the residence. Cy's body camera captured the porch swing moving once for yes and twice for no, though no question had been asked. Inside, the kitchen smelled of milk boiled dry. The clock hung above the sink. Its hands pointed to nothing. Where the 12 should have been, the word begin had been etched so deep into the face that wood grain curled around it like scar tissue. Elian stood in the corner, facing the wall. He was approximately 48 years old. His clothes hung from him, like he had borrowed them from a smaller life. He asked if they had brought his son. He did not have a son. Cy asked him to step outside. Elian said he could not, because outside was Tuesday, and he had already used Tuesday. Then, the clock chimed once. An archivist Cole began crying. He later said he had seen his childhood bedroom through the oven window, but the bed was made of soil, and his mother was humming from underneath it. The house revealed its protocol slowly. It did not kill in the usual direction. It balanced. Every year, taken from one person appeared as memory, illness, or obligation in another. The Voss family had not inherited the house. The house had inherited the Voss family, one generation at a time, and it kept its accounts in bone. At 3:04 a.m., Sae found the hallway that did not exist. It began behind the kitchen wallpaper, which peeled away without tearing. Beneath it was not plaster, but a corridor lined with framed birth certificates. The names repeated. Dates overlapped. Some certificates listed the same child born to different mothers. Some listed mothers born to their own children. At the end of the corridor, a nursery lamp glowed behind a half-closed door. The recording from this point contains a recurring chime every 41 seconds. Each chime removes one word from the transcript. What remains has been reconstructed through lip reading and the testimony of the only surviving responder. Cy entered the nursery. The crib was empty, except for a silver pocket watch and a coil of umbilical cord dried into the shape of a question mark. On the wall, written in growth chart pencil marks, were heights labeled with years: 1998, 1973, 2031, 1844. At the top, above the ceiling line, someone had written, "Elian comes home tall enough." Cole stayed in the kitchen with Elian. He asked who built the house. Elian answered, "We did, after it taught us to miss ourselves." Then, every clock in the town began ringing. Not just clocks, microwave timers, church bells, watches in drawers, the metronome in the high school band room, the little plastic bird that popped out of Mrs. Bell's souvenir cuckoo clock, though the bird had been missing since 1989. Bellwether counted backward from 13 to 1. On one, every person in town remembered a different version of Elian Voss. To some, he was a classmate who died in a creek. To some, he was the man who delivered their mail for 40 years. To 3 elderly women, he was their first child, stillborn, wrapped in a blue towel. Each memory arrived complete, painful, and false enough to bleed. Saye tried to remove the pocket watch. The nursery door shut. In the kitchen, Elian aged rapidly, then reversed, then aged again, skin loosening and tightening as if an unseen hand were trying on all possible deaths. Cole broke protocol and said Elian's name. The house answered in Cole's voice from every room. Which one? The final usable footage shows Saye carrying Elian toward the front door. He is now a small boy with gray eyes. The porch stretches away from them, longer with every step. Family portraits appear along both walls. In each portrait, Elian stands at a different age. But behind him, barely visible in the kitchen doorway, is a woman with no face, holding a ledger. Saye fired a flare into the hallway. The wallpaper ignited. The house screamed with many throats, most of them elderly, some not yet born. The porch swing stopped moving. The kitchen clock fell from the wall and split open. Inside the clock was no mechanism. Only teeth, human teeth, arranged in rings, each engraved with a year. Saye escaped with Elian at dawn. Cole did not. The house burned for 9 minutes, then stood whole again, paint fresh, windows dark, porch swing moving once for yes. Elian Voss was placed under registry protection. He remained 8 years old for 12 days. On the 13th, he woke as a 79-year-old man and asked whether the probate clerk had signed correctly. He died before noon. His death certificate had been on file for 3 days. The house remains at the end of Marrow Lane, though county maps now show the road as undeveloped woodland. Residents insist there has never been a house there. They also avoid the woods after dark, and every September, someone leaves a birthday cake on the stump where the mailbox used to be. Final note: on the anniversary of the burn, the registry received a package with no postage. Inside was Cole's analog recorder. The tape contains 1 hour of kitchen sounds, then a child's voice asking how many years a man is worth. Behind the voice, very faintly, a clock begins to count down from 5.